Hey y'all, I'm Rylan. Welcome to my channel. I am finally filming a video that I meant to film several weeks ago. I want to give y'all an official, in-depth dream library tour. In case you missed it, a couple weeks ago I uploaded a video where I organized these big shelves behind me. We had just taken off the doors, painted the shelves white, and I was able to start building this dream library in the loft of our home. And the space is 98% done, I would say. It's not 100% there, but it's really close, and I'm really happy with how it looks and just the vibes and the coziness of the space, and I wanted to give y'all an in-depth tour. I've got more shelves than what y'all see behind me, so I wanted to show you guys those. I want to share my reading nook, my office space, and just the dream that I have built up here in our loft. I thought we would go through all the shelves more in depth than what I showed in the organization video, as well as show you all the shelves that I have around the room with other things on them for various reasons, and just give y'all a little tour of this dream space that I've cultivated and am so in love with. So buckle up, this might be a little bit of a longer video. I will be rambling a lot probably, but it's gonna be a great time. We're gonna start at the beginning, at the entrance to the room with the loft stairs, and we're gonna go from there. But before we get started, if you like all things bookish, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I try to upload once or twice a week with all the bookish things. Thank you all so much for being here. This is such an odd angle, but I wanted to show y'all that the stairs open up right into this loft. I don't have a door to the room, which is totally great. It makes this room feel super open, and I was gonna go up the steps to show y'all kind of like the entrance to the loft, but I thought that would be kind of choppy and just a lot more work than I wanted to do. So we're just here instead showing y'all just the tips of the stairs, but we're also going to go ahead and spin the camera around. I've got a random mirror, but first up we have my, let's get this set up, my special edition bookshelf. I'll do a quick scan of it before we go in depth on each shelf very quickly. This entire bookshelf is my special edition shelf. I've got a variety of special editions from different small businesses. I've got probably smut special editions. I've got the last chapter special editions right here. I've got some Eternal Ember special editions, Darkly, random ones that I've purchased on places like Pango or Mercari. And this entire shelf is just romances or fantasy romance, and they are covers that are not the standard edition ones. These are books that I probably will not read physically ever, but I will either read the standard copy that I already own on my shelves over there, or I find the book on Kindle Limited, or some of these books I've already read and I just love them so much that I wanted to get special editions of them. So these books don't really get touched. They're more for the aesthetic, for the beauty, and I just really enjoy having this entire shelf be the first thing that you see when you come up. The second shelf right here, we're gonna flash to it, is my favorite one. This is my Saffron A. Kent shelf. There are a lot of books here for the fact that I've only read like 4 books by the author, but a lot of them are the same series, just multiple times. So I've got 2 copies of, who knows what the name of the series is called, but the first book is Medicine Man, and then the other 2 books are Dreams of 18 and California Dreaming. So I've got a couple copies of that series. I also have the standard edition of Dreams of 18 that Stasia gifted me a couple years ago for Christmas. She tabbed it, I read it. Not my favorite one in the series actually, but it was fine, and I just keep this one here to go with the rest of my Saffron A. Kent collection. One of my favorite books by her that I own, that I still haven't read yet, but this is my favorite edition, is this edition of The Unrequited, which is from the Blush book box. I think it's beautiful. It's so dainty. I am obsessed with it. And then of course, You Beautiful Thing You, which I've got like 4 copies of just in this area, is my favorite book by Saffron. I have the regular paperback, the clinch cover paperback, as well as 2 special editions that I truly love. Moving down here to this shelf, I've got my majority of the L. Kennedy books that I own personally, at least the special editions. They're all on this shelf. So I've got the Off-Campus series from Darkly. I also have the Graham Effect from Darkly. I've got this cute little Reading with Rylan sign that I got in one of my Darkly boxes, whoops, before they stopped giving the goodies in their subscription, as well as a hockey candle from, I think, Eternal Embers in one of their boxes, but I could be wrong on that. There is no rhyme or reason to how the special editions are organized necessarily. They're not organized by trope or by subscription service that I got it from or special edition box, but they are organized just how I wanted to organize them and how I wanted to kind of display my favorites, one of which includes A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This is probably one of the most beautiful books that I own. I'm obsessed with it. I love this book in general. I have like 5 copies of this book, and I will always love it. Every time I think about it, it makes me want to cry a little bit, so that's nice. I also have this very nice candle that someone got me. It says Enemies to Lovers. I get very scared to burn my bookish candles, so ooh, that smells really good. So none of them have actually been burned. They're mostly just for display, but maybe someday I will start burning them. But right now I've got so many candles because I'm a teacher, and that's one of the biggest teacher gifts that you get. So I have not had to touch my bookish candles yet. They're mostly just for display. Now at the almost bottom of this shelf, we have some of my favorite special editions also down here, especially these copies from Eternal Embers hardcover. They have like this comic book cover. I'm obsessed with them, but this is Whatever It Takes and Wherever You Are by Krista and Becca Ritchie. These are the authors of the Addicted to You series, which everyone seems to love. Haven't read these ones, but I am obsessed with how the covers look like comic books, and I wanted to display them right here. Otherwise, I have some Belle Book Box special editions here. I've got some more probably smut special editions, as well as Dark and Quirky, and just a variety of beautiful covers. I love the fact that I have enough space to display these individually because they're just too pretty to have tucked away on a bookshelf if I can help it. And then just angling the camera down a little bit, this is the bottom of the shelf. I have my Darkly pins down here, as well as the rest of my special editions. A lot of these ones down here are the fantasy romances. So the romances I've got like The Coven, I have Firebird, The Veiled Kingdom, Electric Idol. A lot of these ones do kind of fall under that romantasy category. I have The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I still have not read, but I've heard amazing things about. This one's from Darkly. So this one's not as quite of a display shelf. I also wanted to be able to weigh down the shelf on the bottom, so it was less likely to be wobbly as I put stuff on top. So that's part of the reason for this one being a little bit more crowded, but still some of my favorite books down here. For example, I have this, oops. For example, I have this beautiful copy of Phantom that is signed by the author. This is from, I forget which box this is from, I'll find it in a second. The Baddies book box, but I actually got a copy of this book, got to meet the author afterward, and she signed it and personalized it. This is one that I will never, ever, ever get rid of. Phantom by Greer Rivers is one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm obsessed with this cover. It's a little bit scandalous, so it kind of hides right there most of the time, but it is beautiful. Oh my goodness, that keeps falling. We are now moving on to this space right here. This is my reading nook. The blanket basket in the back is kind of a mess, but we're just going to ignore that because this is where I typically sit down and read when I'm up here. The window right there provides really great light when I'm sitting down in the chair and reading. The lighting facing this direction for videos is not great, obviously, with the backlight right there with the window, but it's okay. We're gonna make it work regardless. So first of all, I obviously have a blue reading chair where I like to sit and read. Got my little ottoman that I can prop my feet up on as well. And then if we head over here, we're gonna try to do this very smoothly. That was not very smooth. I keep running into things with my tripod. We have the top of my romance book club bookshelf for the Mending Hearts book club. This shelf used to be a lot fuller back when I was in my apartment and I had a lot of the older book club books still on our shelf, but I've since unhauled a lot of them because I was running out of space in that apartment. Now I kind of regret that because I have so much more space and this entire shelf can just be for book club books, but this is for the Mending Hearts book club. In case you did not know, I co-host a romance book club every month with my bestie Stasia, and all the books for the book club are on this shelf, so all the way down. It's a little half bookshelf from Target. On the top, of course, we have one of our engagement pictures from before we got married in July. That one's from February, on the day that we got engaged on February 9th, which is crazy. I also have my badge and all like little taggy tags from the Rock and Romance Readers event that I went to last year. Wish I could go again this year, but we did not get tickets in time, which is sad. And then I also have a beautiful little Pothos. It's a mini one. It is a baby still, but she is thriving and I'm obsessed. I don't have a name for her yet, but if you want to name her, let me know in the comments and maybe we can pick one together. Moving down to this first shelf right here. These are all of the 2025 Mending Hearts Book Club picks that we've read so far. My favorite being Unromanced by Erin Connor. Two of our upcoming ones for August and September are Dream On Ramona Riley by Ashley Herring Blake, and then That First Night by Jen McMahon. This shelf will not quite be full by the time the year is over, but it will be pretty close, so that's very exciting. And then these bottom two shelves consist of books that we read in 2024 and then 2023 down here. These collections are very sparse. I didn't even read this one last year because I was in the middle of a lot, but I do still have it. I do still want to read it because I never read a baseball sports romance before, but I'm just gonna leave that there because I cannot get it tucked in right now. But this is a large part of what we read in 2024, and then of course the first year of our book club, which was 2023, is down here. So many good books we've read both of these 2 years. Some that stand out to me are 1111 by Macaulay Smeltzer. Freaking obsessed with this book. Love it. Love it so much. And then also this little duet here by Eden O'Neill, Eat You Alive and Eat Your Heart Out. Those books made me cry, surprisingly, and I was hooked on them. And then some favorites that stand out down here are, of course, my special edition of Fair Catch by Candy Steiner. This is a football romance. We read it in 2023 and I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. But yeah, this is a book club shelf. I'm hoping to have it filled up eventually, and I'm not going to keep on hauling our book club books because now I have room to store them, but it is nice to kind of have a dedicated space to these book club picks. So do love them, and especially excited to fill up this 2025 shelf by the end of the year. The purpose of this book cart right here changes every couple months. Sometimes it is a TBR cart, sometimes it is a storage cart. Right now it is holding all of the books that I have hauled since I last updated my books owned spreadsheet that I have. So I need to input all of these books into that spreadsheet. I'm very, very behind, as you can tell. A lot of these books though I got from little free libraries, like all of these ones and these two. A lot of these I got at Thrift Smart, which is like a Goodwill here in Tennessee, and then McKay's, which is a used bookstore. So a lot of these books I have used or got free, but I have not input any of them into the spreadsheet that I have, and I desperately need to do that before I move them onto my bookshelves. Fun fact about some of these books here is that I have found out that there are some local thriller authors who live in the greater Nashville area, so I purchased some of their books, and I plan to do a reading vlog at some point in the near future, reading them and just kind of supporting local authors. But the last one that I have here is How to Survive a Horror Story by Mallory Arnold, who is a debut author and who is also from the area, which I think is very, very cool. And I'm excited to do a vlog with that hopefully very soon, sooner rather than later. I've also got some books down here that are for a book event that I'm going to in a few weeks. This is a suspense romance slash thriller, which should be fun, and I have a couple other ones that I plan to bring to an author event to get signed by some indie authors. We are now moving on to what is naturally the start of the highlight of the room. This is part 1 of 2 of my book of the month shelves. I'm doing them in rainbow order, starting on the left side of the bookshelf, so you'll see the rest of my book of the month books in a second. But this is storage slash book of the month book slash overflowing mug of bookmarks that definitely is a mess, as you can tell. So that's real nice, and I have to clean that up, so that's great. This is what happens when you don't practice anything. You kind of just film on a whim. But anyway, all of my bookmarks are stored here. I have read probably 75% of the book of the month books that I own. There are only a couple on this half that I have not yet read, and most of the ones on here that are unread are newer to the shelf. So from first glance, I have only not yet read 2, 3, 4, 5 of these books, which I am very, very happy about. I feel like for a long time, Book of the Month was one of the subscriptions that I had, just like a lot of them, that I just never read from, and it makes me happy to know that that's changed now. I have very much caught up on my Book of the Month books, and most of the ones that I have and still have are ones that I've read and really enjoyed. So I love having this collection here, and I'll show you all the other half of the Book of the Month books in just a second. But now we are officially turning into the bookshelf tour, the main focus of this video, of course. And we are going to start on the left side right here and work our way down / over and down, because it'll make more sense that way, just based off how I have them organized by genre and author last name. So we're gonna go ahead and start up with the Fourth Wing books and chat about them, and then I'll try to keep things quick and not ramble too much, because there are probably 300 books on this shelf and I don't need to talk about every single one of them. So let's get started with the main focus. I do not have a ladder or anything, so we're just gonna reach up on our tippy toes if I need to, but this is my Fourth Wing shelf. You might say to yourself, that is so basic of you to use 2 shelves just for Fourth Wing, especially because you've only read the first book in the series. And yes, I acknowledge that, but at the time, and maybe I'll have to change this sooner rather than later, because I have all those books on that book cart that will be eventually logged and added onto these bookshelves, I had the space to kind of spread things out, and I didn't quite want the Fourth Wing books to go with the other special edition shelf that I had, because yes, they're romances, but they're also like so heavily fantasy that I kind of wanted them to stand out more. And I also have these beautiful copies of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame from Bookish Box that I just wanted them to kind of have their own spotlight. And I've only read the first book in this series, but I loved it. This mug is not Fourth Wing related, but it's up here because it's fantasy, and I didn't know where else to put it. This is the top of the far left shelf. I'm gonna scoot the camera down, and we're gonna talk about the genres that I have over here on these shelves. So this shelf on the far left is my kind of miscellaneous genre shelf. I've got young adult, I've got fantasy, I've got historical fiction, I have classics, dystopian, I have some romantasy also, I've got horror books, some just regular contemporary fiction, literary fiction, graphic novels. I've got a little bit of everything on this shelf, but not enough to like divide them out into their own sections of each thing. So they're kind of just all smushed together. This shelf is in order of author last name for about 98% of it. There's a couple places where just the spacing of things, it made sense to rearrange just a touch, but for the most part, these shelves are all in alphabetical order by author last name when they are divided up by genre. So up here, I have books like the Inheritance Games, series like Lake's Edge and Forest Fall. This is my special edition of the Inheritance Games that Barnes & Noble did a few years ago. Like, look at these edges. They are stunning. The cover looks the same, but the book just feels like really heavy duty, and I'm really excited to have it. I have not finished this series, and it's a goal of mine to do so eventually, but right now I do love having that special edition on my shelves. I've also got like 3 copies of Jane Eyre, because this is one of my favorite classics. It is one of the chonky ones, but we love her. We love Gothic literature. I was obsessed with Gothic Brit Lit class in high school, and obviously wanted to have those books on my shelf. I've collected those over the years. They're nothing super crazy, but I do enjoy finding different editions and adding to my collection when I have the opportunity to. We also have one of my favorite series of all times here, which is the Selection series by Kira Cass. I will always keep these books close to my heart. I have not read them in a minute. I would love to do so again eventually, but I just love Maxon in America, and gosh, I love them and I miss them. Moving down into the second shelf, We've got the rest of the Hunger Games series, which starts up here. We've also got some YA dystopian, some arcs that I've gotten. This is one of my favorite books of, I think, 2022. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Kwake Emezi. One of my favorite books, made me cry. I heavily tabbed it. This is like contemporary fiction slash romance slash age gap. When I got an arc of it, I was super excited. Love this book. I need to do a reread of it someday. I also have one of my favorite underrated YA books slash YA series, which is The Jewel by Amy Ewing. This, I don't remember what the name of the series is actually called, but it kind of gives Selection vibes, just a little bit more new adult maybe, and the stakes are crazy high. I really enjoyed this book. A lot of forbidden vibes, and I was just hooked on it. The series is so good, and I don't really see people talk about it, although maybe they did back when the books were more popular and back when they first came out. I just was not on social media back then, I don't think, at least not in the bookstore community, so I never saw these being talked about, but they are so, so good. Obviously, I also have Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, because who doesn't? One of my favorite books of 2025 so far, Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez. So good, such a fun YA contemporary sapphic romance, highly recommend. Moving on into these two shelves, I got a lot of YA stuff here. I always say that I don't read a lot of YA, but some of my favorite books from growing up are young adult, obviously, and a lot of these are very nostalgic for me, especially the Legend trilogy by Marie Lu / the fourth book, which I have not read, but these three books, if I think about them for too long, especially Champion, I will cry. Freaking love Day and June. I will always love those two. And gosh, just talking about them right now makes me want to reread the series also. But this book follows the younger brother in this book. So I never read it, but I would like to eventually. It came out years after the trilogy came out, so I was kind of past the in the moment age of reading it, but I might go back and reread it sometime, or read it for the first time sometime, and maybe go through the pain of these three books as well. One of my favorite books from 2021, I think, was Empire of the Vampire. This is a freaking chunk. It's so big. I love her though. I still think about this book sometimes. I never continued the series, but Stasia and I read it together years ago, and we did like a buddy read, and it was a really fun time. Also have the Illuminae files right here, which I also love. My thesis was on mixed media, and for a brief second in my thesis, I mentioned this series and the fact that the entire book and the entire trilogy is written in mixed media, which is so unique. And I just remember this being one of the first books that I read that had that element, where I knew kind of what that meant and what mixed media was, and kind of like, I don't know, the impact that it's had on me for this many years to still think about it, and to write a whole thesis on mixed media and fiction and how it enhances the reader experience. So I really enjoy these books, and also would like to reread these at some point. I have a couple arcs up here as well. I have The Wren in the Holly Library by K.A. Lind. I've heard really good things about this author, but I have not read anything by her yet. I also have an infamous arc of Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. Thanks to the publisher for sending it to me. Also have not read this one yet, but I'm afraid that if I do, I'm going to have to very impatiently wait for book 2 to come out. And I'm not sure there's a release date for book 2 yet, so that makes me very nervous and sad. But otherwise, everything else on these two shelves are mostly YA. I have some of my thesis readings on the shelf as well, and I decided to keep all of those ones, so they are also kind of filtered in. Not books I would typically pick up just like for fun, but they were good for my thesis, so I did decide to keep all of those, of course. And then moving down to this bottom shelf right here, we have one of my favorite series of all time from childhood, The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. I love these books. I will be reading them with my children someday, and I cannot wait to relive this trilogy slash the prequel. So good. I love those books. I've read them probably 4 or 5 times a piece. And then also one of the saddest books that I've ever read, which is You've Reached Sam. I read an arc of this book when it first came out, and I cried a lot. So I have this one. I have a hardcover copy of it that I found a couple years ago, and then I also recently, like at the very end of last year, bought a copy of the author's newest release, which gives similar vibes to You've Reached Sam. So I expect to cry in this one, and I cannot wait for it. I've got a little bit of extra space down here for any authors with the last names near the end of the alphabet. I've also got some anthologies in here from when my husband was in college. I actually read this one for grad school. I just don't have my copy of it anymore, so I took his, and yeah, we're keeping him on the shelves up here. We are now moving into the middle row of the middle bookshelves because this is the start of my thriller slash mystery slash horror area. This is a combination of all three genres together because they all kind of blend, at least with a lot of the books here. I feel like there's genre blurs, and I'm totally okay with that. But this first shelf up here is full of thrillers that I have not yet read. I have read a couple of these books, and I have really enjoyed the ones that I'm seeing here that I have read. For example, The Night We Lost Him by Laura Dave. This book was 5 stars for me. I tabbed it. It was really sad, but really, really beautiful. More of a mystery than a thriller, but I really enjoyed it. Another favorite is The Chamber by Will Dean. Also very much a fan of this book. Super creepy, very clinical writing that makes the storytelling a lot scarier in the end when you don't quite know the truth. And then a little fun mug that I have here because I am a part of the reader group for this author. We are called Don Leah's Detectives, and this mug has all of the author's books on it, which I think is very, very cool. So I display this on my shelf near my copies of his books that I do own. One of which is his new release that comes out on July 29th. If you have not read it, if it's already out by now, I would recommend checking it out potentially. This is a very, very interesting thriller. I gave it 4 stars. Moving to this next shelf, I have actually only read one book that is on this shelf right now, which is really sad, but that's just the truth of things. The only book on this shelf that I have read is Someone Knows by V. Keeland, and I gave this book 2 stars. I actually just read it like 2 weeks ago, so kind of a bummer, but we're keeping it for now until I decide to unhaul it at some point. But I do have some very anticipated reads on this shelf. For example, I have Lisa Jewell's new book right here called Don't Let Him In. I plan to read it for a vlog this week / next week. I'm also very excited to read The Reformatory. I've heard such impactful things about this book. It's horror, but also just some really good commentary, and I've just heard it's really hard-hitting and just a really good experience to read, so I'm excited to get to that one. I also am hyped for Samantha Downing. I have really enjoyed multiple books by her. Some of her books have been 5 stars for me. The most recent one I read last year is only 3 stars, but I do have high hopes for this one. And her new book that comes out this year sounds crazy, so I'm excited to get to this one hopefully very soon. But yeah, this shelf has not been read, so we're just going to now move on to the next one. This is a shelf of books that I have somewhat read. I've read more here than I have on the shelf above the center. I read this for book club a few months ago for a bookstore in Nashville, and I actually really enjoyed it. And hear me out for this one, but The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer is a crazy thriller and such a twist from the Twilight series that she wrote. I still think about this book. I don't remember most of what happened in it, but I just remember being in shock while reading it years and years ago. I was probably too young to read it when I did read it, but no one needs to know that, right? It's fine. Ghost Written by Ronald Moffey is a very, very good collection of 4 novellas. I read those for my thesis as well and loved them. The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim is really good. I've got some Josh Malerman books. I really enjoy his stuff. I just have not read the 2 that I own by him. I've read arcs of his stuff though on NetGalley and have really liked them. And then moving on to this bottom shelf, I have a solid mix of books that I have and have not read here as well. One of my favorites will always be Pretty Girls. This is a very, very hard thriller to get to. Very much, please check the content warnings, but I still think about this book sometimes. I'd love to do a reread of it someday. This book was wild and yeah, just very, very interesting because of how crazy it was. I also have a really pretty edition of Ring. This is a horror book that was translated from Japanese, I believe. It is a movie. I'm pretty sure I've seen the movie, but it is a whole series, and I have the series right here and do plan to read them at some point, hopefully soon. But I've been saying that about all these books, so I don't know. Then another one I want to highlight, which is maybe underrated, is Black Widows by Kate Quinn. I have not read this one, but I have read The Clinic by the author and really enjoyed it. So I really wanted to check this one out, and I have a copy of it now, which I cannot wait to get to. And then I also have some YA books, some YA novellas right here that I can probably binge very, very quickly whenever I do end up getting to them. But that concludes my thriller shelf. I'll give y'all a quick rundown of all 4 shelves again, like a quick glance through. Yeah, really good books over here. Very excited about this collection. But now we're going to be moving on into the start of my romance collection. So let me get set up really quickly. So I very quickly realized as I was organizing these shelves a few weeks ago that I own more romance than anything else. And so in these big shelves, the romance starts on the middle, works its way down for 3 shelves, and then it turns over here to the right, and then it starts up at the top and then works its way all the way down. So we're gonna start over here at the top, of course. Let me readjust the camera to show y'all. We're kind of starting up here a little bit. This is also in alphabetical order by author last name, so I can't reach these books very well up here, but some ones to take note of that are my favorites are Be Celeste. I have read 4 of the books right here, and they've all been 4 or 5 stars for me. I love Be Celeste. I've gotten to meet her twice and have her sign my books and buy books from her table and get them signed on the spot, and I just really enjoy having a nice collection of her stuff. I also have a few of her special edition books on the special edition bookshelf, so I have regular and special editions from her, all of which I really love. One of my forever highlights will be A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This is the, there you go. This is the indie copy. The book was picked up by a publisher in the years since I read it, and I am now the proud owner of 3 copies right here, plus the sequel, plus Tilly Cole's newest YA release, which I have not read, but I bet both of these will make me cry. Another one of my favorites is, of course, Penelope Douglas and the author's book, Birthday Girl. One of my favorite age gap romances / ex-boyfriend's dad. Really fun. I've read that book twice and have cried both times while reading it. Moving on to this shelf, this is the last romance shelf. In this middle section, we have Morbidly Yours. This is one of the best books that I read in 2024. The author's new book comes out in August, and I cannot wait for it personally. If you like the friends to lovers trope, I would highly recommend that one. Otherwise, that's the only one on the shelf that I've read, aside from The Bourbon Bride, which I really liked. I gave this one 3 stars in the end. The first half was really good. The ending was super rushed, but there is a sequel, so I'm excited to see what happens next in this one. I got the opportunity to meet the author last summer, and yeah, had a really fun time at that event. I also have a photo of Stasia and I that I'll show y'all really fast before I move on to the next shelf, where it all started when I met her and hung out with her in California, and since then she has been in my wedding, which is crazy, but this frame kind of, I don't know, just a great reminder of where our friendship started at and where it's at now. And I'm gonna get a picture of us from the wedding printed off too to put on the shelf somewhere, but one of my highlights of this bookshelf for sure. These 2 shelves up here, most of the top shelf is kind of a jumble right now because I'm trying to unhaul my copies of Magnolia Park. That's not how they were displayed at first, but that's how they are displayed now. So that way I can easily grab them and unhaul them if someone decides to purchase them from my Pango or Mercari. I've also got my Jennifer Hartman stack right here. I have read 3 of the books. I have read 3 of her books. I've read 2 of the books in that stack. The other Jennifer Hartman one that I have is on my white book club bookshelf because we read her for book club this year. But I love Jennifer Hartman. I've also gotten the chance to meet her. She was so sweet, signed a bunch of my books, and I love having a little collection of her stuff up there. On the shelf below it, I've got a bunch of Elle Kennedy / the couple of Colin Hoover books that I do really, really love. Yeah, I I said that. I do like a couple of her books. Not all of them, but there are two, especially Heart, Bones, and Ugly Love, that I personally felt very connected to and I actually really loved. So I do own a couple of her books, but mostly the shelf is Elle Kennedy. From here to here, it's all Elle Kennedy pretty much. So hockey romance / new adult romance. I've also got a copy of Fairy Tale by Veronica Lancet. This book was recently picked up by a publisher, I believe, but I kind of like the indie edition. It's huge and I have no idea when I'm actually going to read it, but I do have a copy of that up here as well. Moving on into these next two shelves, I actually have a lot of historical romance up here. I've got Jenna McGregor, Rules for Engaging the Earl. She reached out to me and sent me a copy of the book with like some goodies, which I think is very cool. I also have all of the Bridgerton series right here, as well as another historical romance, and then one of my favorite historical romances of all time, which is A Matter of Temptation by Stacey Reed. I read this book and ended up sobbing at the end of it. It was so beautiful. I was hooked on it and highly recommend. I would love to do a reread of this one someday. I've also got my copies of the Tattered Curtain series. Is that what this series is called? Yes. I get this one and the Enchantra / Phantasma series mixed up, but I also have a copy of the Phantasma or Tattered Curtain trilogy by Greer Rivers. This is the author that I got to meet. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars back when I read it. I've since met her and she signed all of my books that I own by her. And then I have 2 more shelves right here for romances. The last shelf is just storage right now because I didn't need it at the time that I was putting these all together, but I might have to do some rearranging and use that shelf space now that I have added so many books to my book cart over there that we talked about a few minutes ago. But this shelf is right here is a lot of Macaulay Smeltzer. I really like her stuff. I have not read these 5 right here, but I have read her for book club. I've read some of her other books on my Kindle and really love her stuff. I also have The Fall of Troy, which is a very underrated duet in my opinion. It's professor student, so if you like that trope, would recommend. I've only read the first book, but it had me in pain and I still need to read booktube, but I really enjoyed the first one and love these covers. I've also got a bunch of Candy Steiner on the far right side. She was actually in Nashville a few weeks ago when I was on my honeymoon, and if I was not on my honeymoon I would have gone to meet her, but alas, maybe there will be a time in the future. And then down here, No Shame, I have the entire After series, as well as the first graphic novel that they published a few years ago from the series. This series is personally very nostalgic to me because I read all 5 books during COVID. I read them all in the span of 10 days, and it's kind of what launched my love of reading again, post starting college when I stopped reading books, period. My entire first semester being sent home from COVID and having access to the library still really launched my reading habits and my enjoyment of reading and my enjoyment of romance. So I do attribute a lot to this series. Yes, they're fan fiction. Yes, I love them anyway. I've also got a bunch of Mariana Zapata right here. The only one that I've read was All Roads Lead Here. Gave it 4 stars, really liked it. I don't typically love super duper slow burn where it's like they don't even look at each other until page 400 out of 500, but I did really enjoy that one. I was also gifted a copy of The Wall of Winnipeg and Me from the publisher, which is very sweet of them. So I do have 2 copies of this book on my shelf now. And that really concludes my romance shelf, which means that now all we have left in terms of books is my book of the month shelf. This is the second half of my book of the month shelf, which is technically the beginning because it's the beginning of the rainbow with like the red / pink starting it off and then moving into orange and yellow. But I've also read almost every book on this shelf. I have not read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've definitely read more from the other half than I have this half, but all of the books that I have not read on this side, I have had since the beginning of this year, so they're still relatively new. except for Only If You're Lucky by Stacey Willingham. I have had that one since last year, but otherwise I'm pretty sure I got all of my unread Book of the Month books on this side this year, so there's still time to get to them. I do plan to get to a bunch in August to maybe get my Book of the Month prize already for 2025, but we will see. My 2 picks from July were up here because I have not logged them yet either, so I didn't want to put them into the stack, but I have You Belong Here by Megan Miranda and then Necessary People by Anna Petoniak, and I'm excited about both of those. Which moves us on officially into my office slash desk area in the loft, because I've showed you guys all of my books officially, but this is my office area. I am very blessed to have gotten a desk and have a printer and a monitor and just kind of have like a dream work setup. My goal is to work from home someday whenever I can find a full-time job, but for right now I do use the space for a lot of planning, a lot of editing. I can print off shipping labels at my printer right there, which is very nice for books that I sell, because I do sell quite a few books on Pango and Mercari, and I have a really cute keypad and mouse, a very nice monitor that plugs and connects into my laptop, and just a really nice space to get some work and productivity done, which I really enjoy. I have my calendar obviously right there to the right. It's not updated right now because we just got back from our honeymoon a few days ago, but it will very soon be a space where I can thrive in and be very organized and productive in, which officially concludes my dream slash home library tour. I feel so blessed to have this entire room just able to be dedicated to books and filming and work, and I'm very appreciative to my husband for helping me get this space all set up and for encouraging my not only love of books and my reading of them, but also my purchasing of them, because he's definitely been the one to hold and carry a lot of my books for me recently that I have purchased. But I'm truly in love with this space. I love being able to come up here every day and just spend time up here and read and be productive, and I am obsessed with it. I know several of y'all have been asking for this video, so I'm very glad that I was finally able to find the time to ramble about my books for a while. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I'm hoping that it's entertaining enough and gives you a little bit of an insight into my reading space, my dream library, and just how excited and happy I am to be able to have this entire space to myself. Let me know in the comments down below how your bookshelves are set up at your house, how you store your books, how you organize them. If you have bookshelves like me, I've seen a lot of people do rainbow shelves, genre shelves, author shelves, or let me know if you do yours a different way by any chance. But that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.